Look up on a clear morning. Cold air, high altitude. You'll see them, white lines drawn across the blue, straight as geometry. They appear behind aircraft, expanding slowly. Sometimes they fade within minutes. Sometimes they linger for hours. They spread. They merge. By afternoon, the sky you woke to has changed. Most people don't think about them, but some people never stop. The official term is contrail, short for condensation trail. Water vapor from jet exhaust meets frigid air at 30,000 feet. It condenses, freezes, becomes visible. Ice crystals suspended in the wake of an engine. The science is straightforward. Temperature, humidity, altitude. When conditions align, trails persist. When they don't, they vanish. The Federal Aviation Administration has documented this for decades. So has NASA. So have atmospheric scientists across the world. Contrails, condensation, explainable. And yet, the word you hear instead is chemtrail, chemical trail. The belief that certain aircraft are spraying something else, something deliberate. Chemicals, metals, particulates, released at altitude for purposes undisclosed. Weather modification, population control, atmospheric testing, geoengineering without consent. The theory has circulated online since the late 1990s. It has no single origin point, no founding document. It emerged gradually in forums and message boards, gaining structure as it spread. Photographs, flight patterns, testimonies from people who said they'd seen enough. By the early 2000s, it had a name. If you search for chemtrails, you'll find official rebuttals. The Environmental Protection Agency, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, universities, all state the same conclusion. Contrails are a well-understood byproduct of aviation. There is no evidence of deliberate chemical spraying by commercial or military aircraft for covert purposes. End of explanation. But explanations don't always end questions, not when distrust runs deep. Consider the visual argument. Some trails dissipate in seconds. Others expand into clouds that linger until sunset. The same sky, the same altitude, different outcomes. Believers point to this inconsistency. If it's just water vapor, why the variation? Why do some trails behave like smoke and others like slow-spreading fog? The scientific answer involves atmospheric conditions, humidity gradients, wind shear, temperature inversions, invisible forces that explain visible differences. But to someone standing on the ground, watching, the explanation can feel insufficient. It requires trust, trust in meteorology, trust in institutions, trust that what you're being told matches what you see. And trust is the variable that changes everything. The chemtrail theory does not exist in a vacuum. It exists in a context, a historical ledger of things that were dismissed, then confirmed. In the 1950s and 60s, the U.S. military conducted open-air testing of biological agents over populated areas. Operation Sea Spray, Operation LAC. Zinc-cadmium sulfide released over cities to study dispersal patterns. The public was not informed. Decades later, documents were declassified. The tests were real. In 1996, a U.S. Air Force research paper titled Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025, outlined theoretical methods for atmospheric intervention. Cloud seeding, fog dissipation, precipitation modification. It was speculative. It was military research. It was public record. And cloud seeding, actual acknowledged cloud seeding, has been used for decades. China deployed it during the 2008 Olympics. The United States uses it in drought-stricken regions. Silver iodide dispersed into clouds to encourage rainfall. It is not covert. It is not chemtrails. But it is weather modification. And it is real. So when someone says they're spraying chemicals into the atmosphere, and the response is, that doesn't happen, the response is technically incomplete. Some atmospheric spraying exists, just not in the way the theory suggests. This gap between what is dismissed and what is documented is where belief takes root. There are patterns that fuel suspicion. Grid formations in the sky, parallel lines, X shapes, aircraft that appear to fly back and forth over the same area. Flight tracking apps explain most of this. Commercial routes, holding patterns, military training exercises. The sky is crowded. Patterns emerge naturally when hundreds of flights cross the same airspace every day. But to someone already skeptical, the patterns feel intentional, coordinated, designed. And there is no simple way to disprove a feeling. Surveys suggest that a notable percentage of people, somewhere between 10 and 30%, depending on the study, believe in some version of the chemtrail theory. Not fringe outliers, ordinary people, parents, veterans, nurses, teachers. Many accept other complex explanations: climate change, vaccine efficacy, evolutionary biology. But on this issue, doubt persists. Why? Perhaps because the theory touches something deeper than evidence. It touches autonomy. The idea that something is being done to you without your knowledge, from above. That you are subject to forces you cannot see, test, or control. In that sense, it's less about the trails themselves and more about who decides what happens in the air you breathe. There is a psychological term, agency detection, the human tendency to see intention behind events, to assume patterns have authors, that outcomes have architects. It's an evolutionary trait. It kept us alive. Better to assume the rustling in the grass is a predator than to assume it's just wind. But in a modern context, that same instinct can misfire. It can find design where there is only coincidence, conspiracy where there is only complexity. Or it can detect something real that others have chosen to ignore. History contains both. The chemtrail question will not be resolved by more data. The data already exists. Atmospheric science is not lacking. What's lacking is a shared agreement on who interprets that data. Who is trusted to explain what we see? And in an era when institutions have been caught lying about weapons, about surveillance, about testing, trust is not restored by saying, "Trust us." So the lines remain, every morning, every flight path, crisscrossing the sky in silence. Some see condensation. Some see something else. And the distance between those two interpretations is not a matter of evidence. It's a matter of belief in the people providing the evidence. The question is not whether chemtrails are real. The question is why, after decades of explanation, so many people still look up and doubt what they're told. Maybe the answer is in the sky, or maybe it's in everything that came before. Some questions don't disappear when they're explained. They disappear only when they're trusted. This has been a recorded transmission.